Very good morning, students. Today, let us revise electrostatics. Electrostatics. Here, electrostatics is the branch of physics which deals with the study of electric charges. Electric charge is arised on a body due to the transfer of electrons. The body which gains more number of electrons will get negative charge. The body which loses electrons will get positive charge. Let us understand. Suppose here is an object. It lost some electrons. Due to the loss of electrons, it attains positive charge. The neutral object which gains electrons will get negative charge. The charge is represented with a letter Q. The generation of charge is involved with the transfer of electrons. Hence, charge on any body is an integral multiple of charge of single electron. If body loses electrons, it will get positive charge. If body gains electrons, it will get negative charge. So, the general formula for charge on any body is Q is equal to plus or minus Ne. E is the charge of a single electron, which is given by minus 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs. Suppose 3 electrons were transferred, means 3 into 1.6 into 10 power minus 19 coulombs is the charge generated over the body. Body loses electrons, gives positive charge. Body gains electrons, will get positive charge. If suppose there are two charges separated by certain distance, the 2 point charges Q1 and Q2 separated by certain distance. As both are positive charges, always like charges repel each other. Like charges repel each other. This is the force experienced by the first charge because of the second charge. This is the force experienced by the second charge because of the first charge. The separation between them is R. Either force of attraction or force of repulsion can have a magnitude F, which is proportional to product of the magnitudes of the two charges and is inversely proportional to square of the distance between them. So, F proportional to Q1 Q2 by R square. F is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q1 Q2 by R square. This is called Coulomb's inverse square law. This is called Coulomb's inverse square law. Here, the points to be remembered are epsilon naught value is 8.85 into 10 power minus 12. If you want epsilon naught value, you should take this force this side. So, Coulomb square by Newton meter square will be the units for that epsilon naught. Similarly, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught is given by 9 into 10 power 9. Units will be in reverse order, Newton meter square by Coulomb square. So, this is the basic idea of Coulomb's law. You should remember this equation. You should also remember this equation and you should remember these two results. Actually, electrostatics means study of electric charges which are at rest. If electric charge is at rest, if you want to study about this electric charge at rest, you should describe one vector quantity E bar and one scalar quantity V. This vector quantity is called electric field strength. The scalar quantity is called electric potential. The charge, suppose if it is under motion with constant velocity, then it creates some current. So, you can study this constant velocity moving charge under the heading of current electricity. Current electricity. That is the next chapter. Later, we need to study about a charge which is moving with non-zero acceleration. That means velocity is not constant. Such charge can create electromagnetic field or electromagnetic waves around it. So, in the lesson named electromagnetic waves, we will study about accelerating charges. Electrostatics deals with only electric charges which are at rest. The study of electric charges at rest is called electrostatics. The study involves the development of electric field as well as electric potential. What is electric field? Electric field is a vector quantity. Suppose here is a charge. There is some region of space around it up to which its influence is observed. That means if you keep a test charge here, 1 coulomb positive charge, it will be repelled by this positive charge. Suppose the given charge is a negative charge, it will attract the 1 coulomb positive charge. So the influence is observed up to some extent. The region of space around a given charge up to which its influence is observed is called electric field. The electric field strength at this point is defined as the force experienced by unit test charge kept at that point. Electric field strength at a point within the electric field is defined as the force experienced by unit positive charge placed at that point. It is a vector quantity. It is directed along the line joining the given charge and the test charge. So if you want to represent this as vector quantity, F by Q r cap will be the direction of that. Now, according to Coulomb's law, if you take this force between these two charges is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q into 1 by distance square. This force experienced by this unit positive charge is called electric field strength. If you want to represent it as vector, E bar is equal to 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by r square into r cap. This is the general idea. Later, to describe the electrostatics of this charge, we need to define one more quantity called electric potential. It is a scalar quantity. Electric potential is defined as the amount of work done for bringing unit positive charge from infinity to a point within the electric field. From outside of this region, if this unit positive charge is present, it will not be influenced by this given charge. So, if you want to bring it from outside of this field, that means from infinite distance to a particular point within the field, you need to do some work against the repulsion given by it. The amount of work done is stored as electric potential in the body. That electric potential is given by W by Q. The units for electric potential are joule per coulomb, nothing but volt. Nothing but volt. If you want to give an expression for electric potential, then you should take work done. Work done is nothing but force into displacement or F bar dot R bar by Q. As you are bringing unit charge, so force into R, nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught Q by R will be the expression for electric potential. So, from this entire discussion, the conclusions are like this. Electric charge is generated either due to the transfer of electrons from the body to the other one. That means body loses electrons, gains positive charge. Body gains electrons means it gets negative charge. The charge on any body is an integral multiple of charge of single electron. You cannot create charge or you cannot destroy charge, but you can transfer charge from one body to another body. This is called conservation of electric charge. The force between any two charges, like charges always repel each other. Why? Why like charges has to repel each other? You know that whenever there is a positive charge, always lines of force will diverge out. Line of force is the path traced by unit test charge kept in the vicinity of it. If you take a negative charge, lines of force will converge into this. Whenever I keep two positive charges side by side, there is a possibility for intersection of lines of force. No two lines of force should intersect each other, since if they intersect, at the point of intersection, the electric field finds two directions. It is not correct. Always you should remember that whenever a line of force is going like this from positive charge, the tangent drawn to it at that particular point will give the strength of electric field at that point. So in this way, in order to avoid the intersection of two lines of force, like charges repel each other, unlike charges attract each other. This is the discussion to be remembered before going into the exact values of the or exact concept of the lesson. This Coulomb force follows principle of superposition. This Coulomb force follows principle of superposition. Suppose there are three charges located at the three corners or three vertices of an equilateral triangle. Let L be the like this, and the charges available here are Q, 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 or you can take it as Q1, Q2, Q3. I need to find the net force experienced by Q1. Actually, it experiences a repulsive force from Q2 as well as Q3. The net force experienced by this particular charge is the algebraic sum of forces given by other charges. This principle is called principle of superposition of forces, Coulomb forces. That means these two will repel each other with a force given by K into Q1 Q3 by R square. These two are repelled with each other by a force K into Q1 Q2 by R square. Here K is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught. The net force is the sum of force experienced by the first charge with respect to third charge, force experienced by the first charge because of the second charge. So this is the general idea. So we should take the resultant of these two. As this is 60 degrees, I should go with the parallelogram law to find the resultant force. So the net force is given by square root of F13 square plus F12 square 2 F13 into F12 into cos of the angle between them is cos 60. By substituting those values here, you can find the magnitude of the net force. And the direction of net force is given by, again, parallelogram law, tan alpha is equal to Q sin theta by P plus Q cos theta. By using that formula, you can find the direction of resultant force. Whenever more than two charges are available at a particular location, the force experienced by any particular charge is the algebraic sum of individual forces experienced by it because of the other charges available in the vicinity of the given charge. This principle is called principle of superposition of Coulomb force. Suppose if I consider the electric field due to a point charge, already I mentioned electric field due to point charge. Here is a charge whose magnitude is Q. Let it be a positive charge. From this point, at a distance r from it, 1 Coulomb test charge I am taking into consideration. The force experienced by this 1 Coulomb charge is called electric field strength, as we discussed earlier. Force experienced by this unit positive charge is called electric field strength. As it is positive, it experiences a repulsive force. That repulsive force itself is the magnitude of electric field strength. So 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q into 1 by r square, nothing but 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square will be the electric field strength at a point due to a point charge. And if you want magnitude as well as direction, then E bar should be taken as 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r square into r cap. R cap is unit vector in this direction. You know that r cap is equal to r bar by mod r bar, nothing but r bar by r. If I substitute it here, 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught q by r cube into r bar. The same discussion we can make in the form of in the vector form of Coulomb's law also. The same thing, it is mentioned in the book, we just go through it. Now let us understand a law called Gauss law. What is the purpose of Gauss law? Gauss law provides us an easy method of calculating electric field strength due to a charge distribution. Sometimes charge is distributed over a line. This is called linear charge distribution. Here we may not know the ends of the conductor. Then what is the total charge available on that linear distribution? Nobody knows. That's why we will define, or we will consider unit length of the conductor, and we will calculate what is the charge available on that particular unit length. So if Q is the charge available on L length, then lambda is defined as charge available per unit length as linear charge density. Linear charge density. Similarly, if I take a sheet of charge, if suppose the dimensions of the sheet are very large, so it can be considered as infinite sheet. In that case, we cannot specify the total charge available on the sheet. So that's why we will take a unit area of the sheet, and the charge available on the unit area is defined as surface charge density. Charge available per unit area is called surface charge density. Sometimes charge is distributed over a volume. Here one point you should remember, if it is a non-conducting sphere, charge is distributed throughout. If it is a conducting sphere, charge only resides on outer surface. This is conducting sphere. This is non-conducting sphere. Charge resides only on the outer surface of conducting sphere. Charge resides through entire volume of non-conducting sphere. In this case, charge available per unit volume is defined as volume charge density. Volume charge density or bulk charge density. Bulk charge density. By considering these things, we are able to find electric field strength or electric potential at a particular point from this linear charge distribution or surface charge distribution or volume charge distribution. Once we are able to find this electric field, you can easily calculate electric potential. Electric field and electric potential, they are related by an equation. Electric field is always negative gradient of electric potential. Gradient means the derivative with respect to distance. Gradient means the derivative with respect to distance. Derivative with respect to time is called rate. Derivative with respect to distance is called gradient. Sometimes you may bring this dr this side. EdR is equal to minus dV, then dV is equal to minus EdR, then V is equal to minus integral EdR. Strictly speaking, V is equal to minus integral E bar dot dr bar. Okay, anything you can take. Then by knowing electric field, you can calculate electric potential. By knowing electric potential, you can calculate electric field. Both are true. So by considering all these ideas, we can propose Gauss law. Gauss law provides an easy method of calculating electric field strength due to various charge distributions. Before to that, let me define what is Gauss law. Gauss law states that, or Gauss has given two equations. One is the flux definition. Flux definition. What is the definition of flux? What is the definition of flux? Let us see. The definition of flux is given like this. Whenever there is a surface, let the surface area is ds, very small surface. So it will have some normal like this. So you can take this area as a vector ds into n cap, ds bar. So ds bar will have the direction along the normal to the surface. From this surface, if electric line of force is moving like this, the tangent drawn to the electric line of force will give electric field strength. If suppose the angle between them is theta, then the dot product of these two, E bar dot ds bar, will give the flux, electric flux passing through this small area. So flux passing through any area in normal direction is called electric flux. Flux in the sense electric lines of force that are passing normally through a given surface is called electric flux. So the general formula for calculating electric flux is phi E is equal to E bar dot ds bar. Through the entire surface, if you want, you should do integration on both sides. On integrating this, you will get phi E is equal to integral E bar dot ds bar. This is a closed integral. This is the electric flux through this surface. Now, Gauss states that this electric flux can be calculated by considering a Gaussian surface. If Q is the charge available here, you may take an closed imaginary surface called Gaussian surface, may or may not have regular shape. And if you consider the flux passing through the small area, you will calculate according to this. So the flux passing through the entire area is given by, 1 by epsilon naught times Q enclosed within the surface. So the total electric flux passing through, that means here also you should consider small ds. So you will have ds bar, you may have E bar like this, you may have theta like this, you may calculate E bar dot ds bar and you should take closed integral. Then you will get the flux. That flux value is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed within the surface. Therefore, the general equation describing the Gauss law is given by phi E is equal to closed integral E bar dot ds bar, that is equal to 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. 1 by epsilon naught times the charge enclosed. With the help of this Gauss law, you can calculate electric field due to various charge distributions. Let us understand them in a clear way. For example, first let me take the linear charge distribution. I would like to find electric field at a point due to the linear charge distribution with the help of Gauss law. Without Gauss law also, by the method of integration we can do it, but the calculation becomes tedious. To avoid the tedious calculation, we need to consider the infinite line of charge like this. The charge is distributed uniformly on its surface like this. It is extended up to positive infinity, it is extended up to negative infinity. We need to find an electric field here. In order to find electric field, I need to consider a Gaussian surface of any shape. Let me consider a cylindrical Gaussian surface which is passing through this point, maybe having some length L. I need to calculate electric field strength at a distance r from the conductor like this. In order to calculate this, I need to consider a small elemental area ds, whose normal vector n cap over r ds bar will be like this. Electric lines of force will go perpendicular to the linear charge, hence electric field strength vector will be like this. The angle between them theta is 0 degrees here. You may consider the small elemental area on the flat surface of the cylinder. In this case, electric field will be like this, ds bar will be like this. The angle between them is theta is equal to 90 degrees. So, if I want to calculate electric flux as per the definition given by Gauss, it's a closed integral E bar dot ds bar. Closed integral means entire surface should be taken into consideration. If I consider this a cylindrical Gaussian surface, it will have a curved surface area as well as flat surface area. So, closed integral can be split into two parts, integral E bar dot ds bar over flat surface plus integral E bar dot ds bar over curved surface. Through flat surface no flux will flow, since if you take EDS cos theta, cos 90 is 0. So, the flux passing through the flat surface is 0. So, entire flux is passing through the curved surface. Flux passing through the curved surface is given by EDS cos 0. Cos 0 is 1. At a fixed distance, E value is fixed. Therefore, I can write E into integral ds. Integral ds means like this small elements are there. So, you consider the combination of all the small elements available on the curved surface. Then you will get the entire area of the curved surface. The curved surface area is given by 2 pi RL. You know that whenever we cut this cylinder, it will be in the form of a rectangle. The length of the rectangle is nothing but circumference of this cylinder, that is 2 pi r, and the breadth of the rectangle is nothing but height of the cylinder, 2 pi RL. But as per the definition of Gauss law, it should be 1 by epsilon naught times q enclosed. So, L is the length of the conductor enclosed here. You know that for linear charge distribution, the linear charge density is given by lambda is equal to q by L. So, the charge available over L length is given by lambda into L. So, I should write lambda into L here. As both are representing the same quantity, you can write E into 2 pi RL, that must be equal to 1 by epsilon naught times lambda L. Now, L gets cancelled, E is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. E is equal to lambda by 2 pi epsilon naught r. If you want direction, you can take unit vector in this direction, no problem. In the unit vector in this direction is n cap. So, if you want E bar, you should take n cap. Okay, this is the way of calculating electric field due to infinite line of charge. Similarly, we can calculate electric field due to infinite sheet of charge. Similarly, we can calculate electric field due to infinite sheet of charge. Suppose E due to infinite sheet of charge. Here is an infinite sheet provided with charge on its surface. as we defined earlier, the surface charge density is given by sigma is equal to charge available per unit area, like this. I need to find electric field strength at this point. In order to find the electric field strength at this point, I need to consider a Gaussian surface. I may consider the Gaussian surface of any shape. Okay, I am considering it in the form of cylinder. In your Oswald book, it is given in the form of rectangular parallelepiped. Anything you can take, no problem. So I considered a Gaussian surface which is in the cylindrical form and whose area of cross section is A. Whose area of cross section is A. And this point is located at a distance r from the sheet. At this point, if you consider the area vector will be like this and the electric field vector will be like this. Angle between them is C bar and ds bar is 0 degrees. You may take a small element ds here if you want. Okay, the same small element if I consider here, E bar will be like this, again ds bar will be like this. Angle between them is 90 degrees. So no flux is passing through the curved surface. The entire flux is passing through the flat surface. Generally, the sheet what I am considering is a non-conducting sheet. For non-conducting sheet, charge resides on either side. Hence, flux will pass through this flat surface as well as this flat surface. No flux will pass through the curved surface. If I want to calculate electric flux here, it is a closed integral E bar dot ds bar. Again, we need to split this integral into two parts. One part is integral E bar dot ds bar over flat surface, integral E bar dot ds bar over curved surface. Through flat surface only the flux is passing. Through curved surface it is not going because EDS cos 90 is 0. So only you are left with the EDS cos 0 degrees plus 0. So at a fixed distance E value is fixed, so E integral ds. So here I need to consider the area of the flat surface. As it is a non-conducting sheet, charge is residing on both sides, so flux is going on both sides. So as the area of cross section is A, the total area through which flux is moving is 2A. But as per the definition of Gauss law, electric flux is 1 by epsilon naught times Q enclosed. Here per unit area, sigma is the charge available. Per A area, sigma A is the charge available. As both are representing same, E into 2A must be equal to sigma A by epsilon naught. A gets cancelled, E is equal to sigma by 2 epsilon naught. This is the electric field strength due to infinite sheet of charge which is independent of the radius. And one more point, if the given sheet is a conducting sheet, charge resides on only one surface, so flux passes through only A area of cross section, then the same formula will become sigma by epsilon naught. If both sides charge is distributed, then electric field strength due to that infinite sheet is given by sigma by 2 epsilon naught. So this is the idea about Gauss law. One more application is there. Due to a sphere at an outside point, inside point, on surface point, we will calculate electric field strength. Already we discussed it in the regular class, but as per the new syllabus for this academic year, it is not there. You need to refer through these two ideas. You need to refer through these two ideas. I hope all of you understood this. Next, let me move on to the next concept. That is electric dipole. Electric dipole. If two equal and opposite charges separated by a very small distance, the small distance is taken as 2L, since always distance must be measured from the center. So this length is 2L. Such a combination of two charges is called electric dipole. Electric dipole. Here every dipole is provided with some dipole moment vector to explain its strength. The dipole moment vector is directed from negative charge to positive charge, and this dipole moment vector is defined as the product of magnitude of any one of the charge into separation between the two charges, and the separation between the two charges is taken as a vector and whose direction is from negative to positive. The units of dipole moment are coulomb meter. The units of dipole moment are coulomb meter. If I consider a dipole minus q and plus q, this dipole can have two axes, one axis like this, one axis like this. This is called axial line. This is called equatorial line. Axial line and equatorial line are the two reference lines to describe the nature of this electric dipole. You may calculate electric field strength at an axial point, or you may calculate electric field strength at an equatorial point. The general formula for electric field strength at any point due to a dipole, suppose this is a dipole, minus q plus q, so its dipole moment vector is p bar like this. From the center of this dipole there is a point located here which is at a distance r, making an angle theta with the dipole moment vector like this. At this point, if you want to find electric field strength, the electric field strength value, we already discussed the derivation. I am not discussing the derivation here. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught p by or p into 1 plus 3 cos square theta by r cube. If suppose this point is located on the axial line, theta is 0. When you take theta is 0, E at an axial point is given by 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught 2p by r cube. Similarly, if the same point is located on equatorial line, theta becomes 90, cos 90 is 0, then E on equatorial line is 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught p by r cube. 1 by 4 pi epsilon naught p by r cube. So by taking E on axial line, by taking E on equatorial line, or by taking electric field at any point due to a dipole, you can solve any problem. If you know electric field, you can calculate electric potential by using the relationship between E and V. E is equal to minus dV by dr. Here one general question every time what they are asking is torque on the dipole. Torque on dipole. Suppose here some electric field is available like this, E bar. If all the lines of force are parallel to each other, such a field is called uniform electric field. In this electric field, if I keep a dipole of minus q and plus q charges like this dipole can have some dipole moment vector p bar, which is making some theta angle with the direction of electric field vector. This dipole experiences some turning effect to get the stable equilibrium. Since electric field is directed from positive plate to negative plate, so this negative plate may attract this positive and the positive plate may attract this negative. So each and every charge experiences a force EQ in opposite direction. If two forces are acting on an object to give a turning effect, it is called torque. If I want to calculate the torque, is defined as force into perpendicular distance. Force into perpendicular distance. What is the force here? EQ is the force here. What is the perpendicular distance between the two forces? If you want to calculate, this force is here on this line, this force is on this line. This could be the perpendicular distance. As you know, the length of the dipole is 2L. As it is theta, it will be 2 theta. So it will be 2L sine theta, opposite side. So you can write 2L sine theta here. And by taking Q into 2L and sine theta like this, E into Q into 2L is called P, EP sin theta. If you want to represent it as a vector, tau bar can be represented as P bar cross E bar. This is the torque acting on the dipole. Here you can calculate the work done. Work done is given by tau into delta theta or d theta. dw is equal to integral tau d theta, that is integral tau is given by EP sin theta d theta. Theta varies from some theta 1 to theta 2. So EP is constant. For sin theta, the integral is cos theta. Theta varies from theta 1 to theta 2. So then it becomes EP cos theta 1 minus cos theta 2. This is the work done in rotating the dipole from a position theta 1 to theta 2. By knowing all these equations, we can solve so many problems. Already we discussed plenty of problems related to this electric dipole and Gauss law. You try to go through those problems and also refer through each and every question that was asked in previous CBSE examinations, board examinations, which were given in your OSWAL book, and try to solve each and every question and ask me whenever you find some doubt. I hope I reached you regarding this concept. Thank you.